everybody, welcome back to Record-ology. It's been way too long since I've done a live. My hair's bad as usual, but I'm excited as usual to hang out with you guys, doing a little bit of test tonight. So I need your help with that. Being here is helping me. Got some fresh water, got some records to talk about. I've got an open heart and an open mind to chat about whatever it is that you would like to talk to or about. And I don't know when my camera's up a little too high there. And yeah, so what's going on? What's the latest and greatest? If you're watching the replay and you missed this, no worries. Enjoy the replay. You can, there's a way to watch the chat in real time as it happened. There's a button and also a comment section like any video. So thank you for being here for that. Make sure you got your notifications turned on, and bell, and then select all. That way YouTube serves it up. And that sort of goes into what I wanted to talk about today, because I heard through another content creator that YouTube only serves up 2 push notifications per day. Now, I don't know if that is if a subscriber is just following you, or if they've turned notifications on, or if they've done all of those and have selected all. So today ran a bit of a test and put 2 things up. First, a community post, then a video. If you haven't seen that video, I encourage you to go check it out. It was a really cool preamp. Cool enough that I swapped out my Fozzy X4 box or whatever for the new preamp. It's that cool, just based on looks alone. And but anyway, so this will be the 3rd thing today. So my experiment is, do people get the notification for 3 things today? So for anybody that's here, or even, I guess, mostly for the people that are here in the live, did you get a pop-up or some sort of notification from YouTube that this was going on? How did you find this live stream? Kyle, welcome in. I bought an RCA Victor record player for $10. That's awesome. Oh, I just got a text from a friend. I think he sent me a picture of a 3-inch record player and matching case, Beatles edition. I'll have to look into that. Apparently my friend is not watching the live, but that's okay. Bought an RCA Victor record player for $10. Which model, what make and model is it? It sounds vintage. If you say RCA Victor versus Victrola, I'm thinking it's vintage. Ivy Poison, welcome in. Hey, recently had a nice score at a local pawn shop. I have never shopped for records at a pawn shop or for equipment. Found John Denver's greatest hits of 2001 Space Odyssey. If you can believe your eyes and ears, the Mamas and the Papas. I love the Mamas and the Papas. Within arm's reach, I have the Mamas and the Papas. You have to take my word for it. It's back here on the 8-track tape. I don't think I have any vinyl of Mamas and Papas. Their best songs were spread out over quite a few albums. So it's kind of like if you want those greatest hits, you have to go for all of it. That being said, I did pick up a 3-CD set a few months ago of the greatest hits, Mamas and the Papas. And it was like one of those as seen on TV deals. And I love finding those collections in stores. Well, that's cool. I have never thought to look for records or even equipment at a pawn shop. Do you guys do that? They sell old vinyl? That's cool. Kyle says, also got Queen on 8-track. Very cool. And last but not least, Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. Yes, I have. I think I have that, and I've got the Arthur Fiedler knockoff version. TG 4.0, hello, thumbs up. Welcome in, my friend. Michael Brown, welcome in as well. Again, did you guys get a notification about this live? You always hear about the YouTube algorithm, and I don't know what to believe or not believe anymore. But like I was saying earlier, if you're just joining us, I had heard it only serves up 2 notifications a day. And this will be the 3rd thing I've done today, because I did a community post, I did the video, you should go watch it, and now I've done this live. So far, this is making me think that maybe, because we're getting as many people in this live at this point as we normally do, So I'm guessing folks are getting notifications about this. So maybe the three or the 2 notifications a day is a malarkey, as they say. Ivy Poison, yeah, I got a pretty good deal on them. All 4 were $5. I was able to buy them all for $12. That's great. Second chance, Junkyard. What did I miss? The only thing missing is you, my friend. Welcome in. Just got started. Stephen Crawford just bought a JVC AL A95 for $10. You guys are getting some great deals. Works awesome. No dust cover. That sounds like a good deal. Absolutely. So I want to show off a couple of records I got recently. So if you have been paying attention to any sort of Disney news lately, it was fairly big news that Walt Disney World recently shuttered temporarily the Country Bear Jamboree attraction, which were animatronic singing bears. And like a few, I wouldn't say many, but a few opening day attractions for Disneyland and Disney World, there's an official soundtrack. Well, when they closed the original Country Bear Jamboree just a week or 2 ago, it was to redo the sound. They're redoing the score and they're updating it and things, which is good because it is a bit dated. That being said, the market for Country Bear Jamboree soundtrack records went up, and so received this as a gift, and was very thankful to get a copy of this. This is the original 1973 issue, 72 issue. The attraction opened in 71, and the record was released in 72. Beautiful cover, full color. Wow, was it 50 cents at one point? On Disneyland Records. There was a later issue of this. This is an early variant. I've cleaned the record. I have not sleeved it yet. But this is, you can see it's got some scratches, but it's very playable, very listenable. And for as rare as these things are right now, I'm just thankful to have a copy. And actually, it's got a very charming sound to it. That's the early 70s Disneyland Records label. There was a later issue, probably early 80s. They had the kind of orange sunset Disneyland label. But it's conducted by George Bruns, and it is gatefold. Gosh, I'm having a hard time figuring out where the camera is today. Storybook record. This one has a couple of the pages left. Absolutely perfect to me, though. I love this so much. So I was very thankful to get a hold of this. My wife found a fantastic price on this. So it's a well-loved copy. It's a well-loved copy. But I'm excited to see what they're going to do. Walt Disney always said that Disneyland, Disney World, they're not meant to be a museum. They're not going to be always the same. Things will be updated. They will be closed. They will be added. It'll always be in a state of evolution and development. So the update to the Country Bear Jamboree show was inevitable. That being said, they would have a mutiny on their hands if they ever tried like getting rid of pirates, or they did update pirates. Remember with Johnny Depp? Or if they tried to get rid of something like Haunted Mansion. I got a few more records as well. I'm going to show those to you. Ivy Poison says, one of my favorite Goodwill finds from a recent memory is a Sony Psych CD cassette boombox from the early 2000s. It's a little rough cosmetically, but it works great. It was only $5 as well. I'm going to look this up. I love it when you guys tell me about something I don't know and I can look it up. Sony PSYCH CD player. Oh. Wait. Is it like blue with 3 yellow buttons? That's cool. Yeah, that's after my era of Walkmans. By the early 2000s, I was obsessed with the idea of MP3s and MP3 players. But this is cool. This is really, really cool. You know what I want to find one of these days? I would love to find again is a vintage Panasonic Walkman or Discman of some sort. A portable CD player. I like how they had the little button on the spindle so you could pop the disc out. I thought that was really cool. I haven't been able to watch the preamp video, says Blade 4127. Do you recommend? I do. I've got it installed here. I'm actually using it. At first, when I was hooking it up to demo it in the show, do the direct feed, I was thinking maybe I would leave the Fozzy Box audio, the Fozzy Box X4, but I decided not to. I decided actually to gift that to a friend of mine, and yeah, put that into his hands and use the Ampapa. That's such a weird name, Ampapa. These brands these days, brand names, it's like they don't mean, you know what I mean? They don't mean anything. It's never Sony or Panasonic anymore. That being said, it's very cool. It uses GE tubes. So I've got the Ampapa, and it's a headphone amp too. So you can put a line input signal or a phono amp or a phono level signal in there and use it as a 2-input switch, with your record player being one of them. I'm using the SLDL1 on that one. I still have the Duke audio with my U-turn on my left. And then back here, I'm doing something perhaps criminal up here. I've got my Technics SLB5, and I've got a Crosley P10 preamp hooked up to it. So I know. Okay, so 3 more records that were gifted just to kind of beef up the Disney collection. Are a couple of these, I guess I would call them generic because they're not like Mickey Mouse or any like key characters, but they are Disney. So let's have a parade marches for children. Wow, this one was colored. I like the, I really like vintage Disney stuff. Ooh, I think this is even earlier. Yeah, this is 64. Check out the Disneyland record label. Ooh, that one's rough. That'll be a nice scratchy one. It's a yellow, black on yellow label. It's also good to have stuff you know won't trigger the copyright. This is Disneyland record high fidelity DQ 1223 Walt Disney Presents Acting Out the ABCs. That ought to be interesting. A child's primer of alphabet counting and acting out songs. Interesting back cover there. Let's look at the label this one's on. That same yellow and black. Then I got Mickey and the Beanstalk. Oh, this has some A-list intellectual property. We got Goofy there, Donald, Mickey, Walt Disney's Mickey and the Beanstalk, Disneyland Records, a complete story and all the songs with the original cast. 1963. So this will probably be that same yellow and black. Yep. That'll be cool. I didn't realize that was a storybook record. I love those. I love that. And then these 2 records are in the pile because they haven't been cleaned and they need to be, but I've already shown them on the show. So I won't go into too much detail. The High Society, I recently picked this thing up and love the music from here. If you want okay, here's my recommendation. Record-ology's recommendation to you tonight when you go to bed, assuming you're here in the United States and that hasn't happened yet today, go onto YouTube, type in Bing Crosby, and the song is Now You Has Jazz. Now You Has Jazz. Where is it? Yes, that is a very cool 4 or 5 minute video. This is on a silver and purple capital label. Is this stereo? This is SW750. I think this is a mono copy. Anyway, this needs to go through the spin clean. That's what these are all waiting for. And then I still have my Pocahontas picture disc that I got at that record shop that said unlistenable, warped record, decorative only. I grabbed it in an enthusiastic moment of, wow, it's only $3 or $4. That being said, it's absolutely listenable. The warpage is very minimal. I don't know if I can convey that on camera, but it's got a very minimal warp. I've got other records I wouldn't even consider warped that are more warped than this. Beautiful picture discs. I love this soundtrack. I love this album. It's one of the few ways to get Disney music. I mean, they make CDs, but these are where you're going to see them the most. If you are interested in finding any Disney picture discs in person without ordering them online, where do you go? For me, I've seen them mostly at Cracker Barrel restaurants, which in Florida here we have a lot of those. I've seen them at, I have seen them at like Walmart, maybe Target. Where else was I thinking? Oh gosh. No, not Best Buy. Well, maybe Best Buy. But actually what I was thinking of was, what is it called? Barnes and Noble. If you're lucky to live in a city that has Second and Charles, I've seen them there too. Unfortunately, we don't have them down here. We have the sister company to Second and Charles, which is called Books A Million. And unfortunately, it's Books A Million and Records A Zero because they don't have any music. It's a bummer. It's mostly a new bookstore is really what it is. Anyway, that's the latest finds. As you guys may know, I recently had surgery, so I've been out for the count up until recently. I'm just now kind of getting going. Limited mobility right now, so I haven't been record shopping and moving equipment around and stuff. Good news is I seem to be healing up fine, and 2 rounds of surgery, hopefully the end for a very long time. And that's all good deal. Good news. Going to do another Studebaker review on the cassette CD player. Are you telling me that you're going to do one, Peter John? That's cool. If I'm going to do one, not a separate review, I'll probably use the equipment in another video. But Studebaker has some amazing equipment. Fun fact, I was actually contacted by the owner of Spectra. Is it Spectra Merchandising, which is the company that owns the brand of Studebaker. And he wasn't mad. He was definitely not mad. He was very nice, but apparently I fundamentally misunderstood that giant alarm clock looking thing. And I was trying to set me straight, which I appreciated because I really didn't understand what the thing was for. I was like, is this supposed to go on the nightstand? This thing's enormous. It's like this 2 foot long alarm clock. It was just overkill. Anyway, he contacted me. We talked about stuff. He's got a lot of cool products. I like the Studebaker brand. I like their stuff. I think it's unique. Obviously these companies like Crosley, Victrola, Studebaker, they do some design work and design some products in partnership with Chinese companies, but oftentimes they're just importing, rebranding, and selling Chinese products. And the companies in China that are making this stuff are getting better and better, which is good. But they have a variety of designs. But what I appreciate is that Studebaker goes out of their way to have unique stuff that other brands don't have. So their CD players look like nobody else's and stuff like that. Second Chance Junkyard got another album recently, Late to the Party by the Fred 7. Sounds interesting. Ivy says, also recently got a pretty nice capital pressing of the Beatles 62 to 66 too, which to go with my modern pressing of 67 to 70. That's awesome. Very, very cool. I've definitely slowed down on my Beatles acquisition because I pretty much have got everything I want. I decided to go the UK route and buy all the albums are the UK versions. And I did get it's still down there, not because it needs to go through the spin clean, but because it's just a box set of the Red and Blue albums, pressed on Red and Blue. I got it directly from the Beatles store. Yeah, on CD, I've got cassette tapes, a couple of them. A lot of vinyl. Between vinyl and CD, I have all the albums. I've also got some stuff on 8-track. One of you actually sent me a copy of one of the 2 8-track tapes of the Red album I was missing. So that's cool. Oh yeah, and I got a gift from another viewer. Sent me this Now and Then, the single, even though it's included on the Red and Blue re-release. This is super cool, and this is the clear version. What I think is so cool about this is, so it's their first and last song. So on one side, you've got Love Me Do on the original Parlophone label. A beautiful, clear vinyl. It's a great pressing. And then on the flip side, the more modern, gosh, can you get it? Hello, there we go. On the more modern Apple label. You want to hear a weird fact? I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again just because it's weird to me. And that is that Apple Records has to pay a licensing fee to Apple computers, aka iPhone, iPad, in order to use their own logo because it has since become a trademark that Apple Computers owns, even though Apple Records had it before they Apple Computers did. So anyway, very generous gift. I do listen to that from time to time. Now and then, perhaps, I listen to it. It's a great, and the new song is definitely growing on me. The first time I heard it, I was like, I don't know. And then I just kept, hearing it more, and I was like, okay, it's really starting to grow on me. Do you guys like that? Are you guys a fan of the new Now and Then? Second Chance Junkyard. When a record has high fidelity on it, does that usually mean it's monophonic? That's a good question. No, high fidelity does not mean monophonic. However, when it comes to marketing terms, it's a second tier marketing term in the later part of vinyl records. So if you are putting together marketing words on records, which is basically, it does this, it does that, it's stereo, it's mono, it's high fidelity, whatever. It's 180 grams, it's colored vinyl. If you think about all those things, they usually go for like one main one. So oftentimes stereo or stereophonic was the primary marketing term. So if a record was stereophonic, it sort of by default is high fidelity. I mean, I guess it could be lo-fi stereo, but usually a stereo record is going to be high fidelity by nature. Whereas if it is a mono record, they would fall back on the second tier terminology, which would be like stereophonic, or no, excuse me, high fidelity. So it's not stereo, but we're not going to go put the word mono on it necessarily. Some do. But we are going to say, what can we say it's cool about? Oh, it's still high fidelity, because you can absolutely have high fidelity mono. So the two terms are, they don't necessarily have any tie to each other. It's just that oftentimes record companies will say high fidelity if it's not stereo. There you go. That's my idea anyway. I could be wrong. Ronald, welcome in. Tennessee E. Ford and Mathis equals 3 records for $460 from Goodwill. Good to see you. Good to see you too. Tennessee Ford. Love Tennessee Ford. Love Johnny Mathis. That's great. Stephen Crawford, welcome in. Remember as a kid, had a Puss in Boots album, early 60s. I think I've seen that around. Ivy Poison, fun fact, Cracker Barrel actually has their own music label. They do. I have a Patsy Cline CD, a couple of them actually, on Cracker Barrel. I don't know if it's Cracker Barrel label, but they say Cracker Barrel on them, and they're like Cracker Barrel exclusives, but they still say MCA on there, which is really cool. But yeah, those are neat to find. They really, really are. And I was at a Cracker Barrel, oh gosh, we had visitors in town recently, and we went to a Cracker Barrel, and they had the vinyl records, which was, it was a typical top 15 vinyl records. You had Prince, you had a couple Beatles, you had, it's a typical, at a Dolly Parton, you had Bruce Springsteen, the typical top 15 records, which, there are some great albums in there, absolutely. But the CDs were more interesting because they had, they always have an Elvis. They always had like an Elvis gospel CD and a Johnny Cash, usually a Patsy Cline. And yeah, I picked up a couple of those Patsy Cline Cracker Barrel exclusives. That's awesome. Peter John, what do you think of music streaming and the different services? Oh man, you asked a loaded question, my friend. I love them. I absolutely love them. Mrs. Record-ology has music available for your streaming pleasure, available at this very moment on all major streaming platforms. And her artist name is Always Rain. Always Rain. Anyhow, I love streaming music because it's the best way to listen to music on the go. If you're driving, it's the best. If you are in a doctor's office waiting for an appointment, it's the best. If you're flying, it's the best. I mean, it's just the best portable music. And you're going to say, yeah, but it's compressed, it doesn't sound very good. Even if that was true, and today it's not even true anymore, but when that was true, the trade-off in size of the file and the ease of access and the variety and all this stuff still outweigh the sound quality. If I'm sitting there in the doctor's office waiting for an appointment, I don't care if I'm listening to a MP3 versus a full blown high quality analog sound. You know what I mean? My brain is on when's that door going to open and they're going to say, "Hey, Record-ology, you're next." You know what I mean? I'm looking desperately to get my mind off of that. And I think that the public at large would agree, which is why the MP3 as a format was so popular for so many years, because most people couldn't tell a difference or they didn't care. You know what I mean? They just don't care. My son is a music artist, also available on streaming services, and he is a musician, and the whole family is. We got a lot of creative talent in the family. My wife, my parents, her family, our son, our daughter's talented in music as well. Anyway, they have interest in creating content, but if you were to sit down and say, I need you to hear the difference between a FLAC file and a WAV file and an analog record, it's not where that they don't have that interest level in that you and I do. So the convenience factor is going to win out with the general public every single time. But what about you and me? What about, I don't want to say audiophiles, but what about people that are into physical media? Is there still a place for that? And for me, like the reasons I just said, absolutely. Now, my favorite is Apple Music. I've been an Apple Music customer for years. We have the family plan. It's like $15 a month. And I use that thing in two ways. One, especially when we first got it, they have a service where you can upload your own music. So I owned a lot of audio, not just music, but also rare things that aren't available on streaming and ambient audio recordings that I've made. You could upload it and then stream it back anywhere, which is a really cool service. And I don't do that as much anymore, but it works as a media server, and it's a fantastic way to go about it. The other thing is, if I want to hear the best uncompressed sound quality when it comes to digital, now I'm going to go to Apple Music. And people say, what the heck? What did you just say? And I can't speak for Spotify as much because I'm not a Spotify person, and I'm also not a Tidal person, the higher end, blah, 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 streaming. But Apple Music a couple of years ago rolled out lossless. So they have their own codec, ALAC, Apple Lossless Audio Codec, ALAC. And it's completely lossless, digital, obviously. And they've added in Dolby Atmos. They've added in Dolby lossless, and there's a handful of lossless formats. So they're streaming audio that is so far above, what any previous streaming was now. And they've got exclusive versions. So if you're a Beatles fan and you don't have Apple Music, you don't have access to all their music, because there's an Apple exclusive of the Rooftop concert, which was not only remastered for the Apple Music version, but in lossless, but it was remastered in Atmos. I believe it's an Atmos version. And the Atmos versions of songs and music that they have on there are spatial. So Dolby Atmos spatial, it makes you feel like you are in the music, not just stereo or even surround, but they use an algorithm to spatially separate things, and it's incredible. I mean, it is incredible. And now Bluetooth is lossless, has a lossless capability. Streaming is lossless. So yes, I'm a fan. Absolutely. I think that I don't think you need to have the Tidal or other high-end streaming subscriptions anymore, because Apple Music is priced competitively. I think you get like a free month too. By the way, they're not a sponsor. I should get some sort of something from them, considering how much I push it. But I'm just a customer like anybody else. I'm just very impressed with the service. Steve says, I was just watching your video on that preamp you just posted a couple of hours ago. Nice unit. Thank you, Steve, for watching. It's great. I was just saying earlier, I've got it up here on the right. It's still driving the SLDO1. And I've gifted my old Fozzy Box X4 preamp to a friend because I intend to keep this one. It's fantastic. And it works as a switch, as you saw. You can have two inputs hooked up to it. So that one is good. That's a really cool one. I love the green. I think it's fantastic. Stephen Crawford says, I found a pawn shop that has over 10,000 records for $2. I got to look for a pawn shop. That's where I found my JVC. Okay, I got to look. You're finding records and turntables. I would have never guessed that records were showing up in pawn shops. Steve says, I've heard some really good quality internet radio streams. And that's true too, internet radio. Did you watch my recent video a couple of days ago on the internet radio? We just reviewed, it was a, what was it, C90, something like that? And it, Cho Yang. Anyway, it was a fantastic. The only thing I didn't like about that radio, and I wouldn't say I didn't like, but the feature that was lacking was that you can't search for a keyword. You can only browse. That because there's 40,000 stations, you really need to be able to search, you know, for artist, style, whatever. But you can browse by country, you can browse by style, and so you can find a lot of content. But yeah, I think that's fun too. And you know what? I am not, and I'm sure there's people out there, but if I stumble on something I like, I'm not going to be like, oh, this is, you know, 128K stream. I can't listen to this. It's garbage. For me, you know, I always think that, and I hope that I'm listening to music, and I use technology in order to do that. But, and that's, I think that sometimes I don't want to say, okay, better be careful here. Sometimes there are people that listen to their equipment, and the music is just a means for listening to their equipment. I don't want to be that person. That sounds like a waste of time to me. I listen to music, and I use equipment to do that. So if I love music, I'm going to love it in all of its forms. So if I come across a low quality thing, that's what it is. Old radios, welcome in. Steve also says, if you only knew just how much music I've bought off of Bandcamp. See, I've never bought anything off of Bandcamp. I've had friends that have done it. Just last Friday, I dropped nearly 160 on albums. All downloads, so not even physical media, just the FLAC files. Wow. 24-bit, 192 kilohertz sample rate. And those are just lost. That's like studio audio. Like, here's the audio out of the studio. That's fantastic. I need to get Bandcamp again because I like discovering new and upcoming artists. But honestly, even with the Apple Music, I've just got so much that I'm just like, there's so much content out there. I also like how Apple Music will like send you a notification if one of your favorite artists releases something. So I listen to a lot of Christian hip hop, and they're always releasing new stuff. So it's kind of fun to get them. Scotty, hey there, watching from Adelaide, South Australia. Welcome in, my friend. What is the nightclub scene like over there? There's a few events here now that DJs are using nothing but vinyl, which is awesome. That is a question that I wouldn't be able to answer because I am just not a party person. I'm a party person, but my idea of a party is sitting down on the couch and, you know, turning on the TV and having just a quiet night. I've never been much of a party person. Nightclub scene. You know, I'm sure it exists up in Orlando, and I'm sure it exists even bigger in Miami, which is about 4 hours from here. Yeah, when I'm flipping through like TikTok at night or YouTube Shorts, every once in a while I'll come across these DJs. They got the turntables out, the lights are pulsating and stuff. I'm sure it's here, man. But welcome in, Scotty. Glad you're here. Old Radio says, I finally ordered the needle I broke in 2020. I still don't have my, I always show it. I still need to buy the, what is this? The OM, I don't even know what it's called anymore. Mono 2M78, 78 RPM, wide groove, stylus and cartridge from Ortofone. Totally snapped off the cantilever with my fat thumb. And it's $100 for the stylus. I just can't bring myself to do it. So I ended up buying an entirely new cartridge just to play 78s. In fact, I've got that right here. I think it's a fan steel. You see the black dot indicating it's a wide groove. I need to put a guard on here. This is dangerous. Do I have one? Oh yeah, I have one right here. And I just slapped this bad boy on a 3600. Yeah, it's a stereo cartridge. So it's not as good as a mono cartridge for playing 78s, but it sounds pretty dang good. So are you glad you did it? That's you sent it back. Why? Wait. And what do I do to $100 needle? Freaking bend it before I... Dude, you are like me. You are like sent it back. I hope you get your money back on it and a replacement. I am just terrible about that stuff. I've damaged so much stuff with stupid mistakes that I have done. Scratching records, dropping needles. I've dropped every needle I own on a felt platter mat at least once and have it dig through the felt, which has got to be really good. Steve says, actually, I did see your internet radio video. I have a really nice Ever Solo DMP A6 Master Edition DAC streamer. Wow, that sounds cool. I love internet radio. Sometimes I'll just sit there with a little portable internet radio and just listen around the world. I was a fan back in the day of shortwave. And I'm talking late 90s. I had a couple of Radio Shack shortwave radios. I have an analog one. It was ridiculous looking. It had like the direction finder on top and the rack ears, and totally over the top, you know. But it was fun. I picked up TV audio, like 4 different shortwave bands, and I would just sit there. I had this in my bedroom. I had this desk, and I had a map. I think I put the map on the wall. I was gonna put pins of all the places I found, and such good memories. And just sit there and fiddle with the dial and, you know, try to find a place and listen long enough to hear the station identification. And wow, I picked up something in the UK. It was so exciting. So exciting and so magical to pull something out of thin air. I'd wait till night, of course, when the ionosphere shrank. And I was getting better reception that way. Man, I love that. Then I had this digital one. Kind of looked like a bigger version of the LC90. And it had a little kickstand on the back. I sold these things off years and years and years ago, thinking I would never go back. How many times have I done that? Oh, I never want to go back. The internet's out. Who needs that anymore? And so that's my point is I was thinking internet radio today is sort of like shortwave was. I've got a handful of shortwave radios. I can't pick up anything. Now, the reception isn't the greatest in the Orlando area in a lot of places. That being said, even in Denver, where I had good FM AM reception, I couldn't get any shortwave hardly at all. And I know a lot of content is just not there anymore for shortwave because, you know, people are just not doing it. And so there's apps. I really like that police radio app where you can listen to any city's police radio. But sitting there away from your phone, because there's nothing magical to me anymore about listening to anything on my phone. I was just talking about streaming, and it's convenient. But it's not like, oh my gosh, I got the latest album by my favorite band. No, everybody can get that instant. The instant gratifications I'm over that. It's not exciting to me anymore. It's not as fun as finding an album by your band, a physical media. And the same thing for me for the radio. I could listen to anything on TuneIn. I could listen to anything on a number of apps. Even Apple Music has radio stations. But sitting there with a physical radio in my lap or in my hands, tuning the dial, even an internet radio these days is more exciting than the phone. And I know that it's still coming from the internet. So it's not as like, wow, I picked up China. It's not as big of a deal as it used to be. By any means, it's not as big of a deal, but it's better. You know what I mean? It's better. So I do like sitting there with the internet radio and just surfing and favoriting some of my favorites. And it's fun. It really, really is. How about you guys? What do you think about internet radio? I hadn't even thought about it or had any of it or done anything with it until maybe 3 years ago. And I'm like, internet radio? I haven't really looked into that. It seems kind of like, it seems kind of like a backward step in technology because it's like, well, my computer can do everything. My phone can do everything. But I work in front of a computer, often with a phone in my hand all day long. So if I can do things that don't involve the computer and the phone, those have kind of become like burdens in a way. They've kind of become like a ball and chain. And I value my time away from devices, smart devices, internet devices. And so, you know what I mean? Then I'm just talking about internet radio, and that's an internet device. So I'm just going in circles, guys. But something about physical media, a radio that's not, you know what I mean? You know what I mean. I would grab one. It really is cool. I do have an internet radio in the rack over here, an Ocean Digital rack mount unit, and it is it's fantastic. Also a CD player. I showed it in my recent audio system tour, and yes, the system has evolved and changed since that video, even though it was only 4 or 5 weeks ago. But I did show that in there, and I like it. Sometimes just put on something. Like there's a Patsy Cline station, Glenn Miller stations, a lot of 1940s radio stations, and any kind of music, especially if you like pop, rock, any kind of like more mainstream genre, you're going to find literally tens of thousands. Peter John, what is this CD rot? Do you really need to back up all of your physical media on an SSD drive? Let me preface this by saying that when it comes to anything, everybody's got an opinion. And everybody thinks they're right, and everybody thinks everybody else is wrong. I try to differentiate myself from that. So this is my opinion. I may be wrong, but this is my understanding and my opinion. First of all, CD rot is the layers between the aluminum and the polycarbonate plastic, sometimes in high moisture environments like Florida. Over time, moisture can get in there and it turns like this black gunk and whatnot, and it can block the laser being able to read the aluminum disc. And there are people that'll tell you, oh, CDs were never meant to last and all this stuff. In Colorado, I listened to CD. My first CD I got was at like 91. I didn't find and I had thousands of CDs come in and out of my life. I didn't ever see a CD with CD rot until the year before we moved here. So it would have been last year. So 2000, it was late 2022, early 2023 before we moved to Florida. And it was a thrift store find. So it could have been from a collection in the South that got hauled up to Denver. It was a copy of Gettysburg. And there was some visible, just kind of grungy looking brown stuff. But and it wasn't on the surface. You couldn't wipe it off. It was below this, between the layers, because there's a construct of layers. So somewhere in there was some CD rot. It still played fine, I think. I don't think there's even an issue with it. Having been now here in the South for about a year, nothing. None of my CDs have CD rot. Could it happen? Yeah, you could drop it, you could crack it, you could scratch it. So if you wanted to guarantee that, backing it up would be a good thing, but I'm never going to spend the time to do that. That being said, your SSD drive could corrupt. I've corrupted it wasn't solid state, but I had knocked over an external hard drive once and corrupted the whole thing. So nothing's, impervious to damage. Steve says, played with Shortwave back in the day. My grandfather had a Shortwave receiver, and it was cool hearing something from across the world. That's cool. See, that's next level, like participating. I was just an observer, a listener. That's really cool. Old Radios has a Magnavox console that picks up lots of stuff. Is it one of those transatlantic radios with like 15 bands? Those are really neat. Steve says, I actually still have my grandfather's shortwave receiver, but you can't get anything anymore. Yeah, I'm glad it's not just me. There's just nothing out there. I've heard that that's a lot of them are just shutting down. Brother Stare died a couple of years ago, says Older. Who's that? So did Gene Scott. I'm not sure I know who those people are. Jeremy H., welcome in, my friend. Thank you for moderating. You will notice that Jeremy not only sports the wrench of a moderator, but he also sports the letter R in a stylish gray motif because he is a member of the Record-ology Inner Circle. It's our 99 cents a month membership program. And we used to do a membership program that had exclusive content, but nowadays, and it was more expensive. Nowadays, we made it only 99 cents. And you get your name in front of the videos and a huge thank you. And in return, you get the satisfaction of supporting the channel, which I really, really appreciate. And it just helps bring more content to you because it's expensive. There's a lot of cost. You pay for internet, you pay for equipment that you acquire, you pay for computers, you pay for editing tools. We have to pay for the tool to create our thumbnails, to make the thumbnails look good. So there's costs along the way, and support by becoming a member is huge. Had somebody give us a super thanks too on a video the other day for like $10. That was just I need to go and write a huge thank you because that was a major, major, major thing as well. People can get super chats in the live streams here, and that's just a huge, incredible blessing when people do that. So anyway, that's available to people that can do that. Steve says, for internet radio, did find a really awesome symphonic metal station out of Germany. I think you told me that. That's cool. That's really, really cool. I was listening to some dance station out of Russia that was kind of mind-blowing. And you'll hear artists that you'll never hear anywhere else. I mean, music that probably in physical media wouldn't even appear. And you got artists now that don't even have physical media. You know what I mean? Like, and you talk about Bandcamp, although some Bandcamp artists have physical media. But you know what I mean? There's a lot of artists releasing stuff that don't even have discs of any kind or tapes. And I think that a lot of radio is available to people in that way that kind of introduce them. Whoa, Jeremy is gifted a membership to IC Pizza Boy. Welcome to the club, IC Pizza Boy. You are a member. Thanks to Jeremy. Jeremy, that was a huge, huge blessing. Thank you so very, very much. And IC Pizza Boy, welcome to the club, my friend. You can now use exclusive emojis in the chat. So welcome and thank you to Jeremy. What a blessing. You guys are great. And don't forget to hit the like button. 19 people and 18 thumbs up. Would really appreciate it. Jeremy's a great hype man. I really appreciate it. I can remember back in the day listening to KC Kasem's American Top 40. Somebody gifted, or no, where did I find it? No, it was a gift. An American Top, it was actually the program that the radio station was like a 4 LP set. I gave it to a friend of mine in the UK who's really into radio DJs and stuff. But it was the KC Kasem American's Top 40. And it was a week that he was out. So it was a guest person, so it didn't have KC Kasem on it. But those sets go for like $100. And it was literally played once, probably loaded into a cart system. So the records were pristine. It was super, super cool. Steve says, same here with my finger hovering over the record button on my cassette deck. That's really cool. Don't forget to hit the like button. Gary, welcome in. Steve says, my Ever Solo unit has a 4 terabyte SSD, and I have ripped several CDs into it. Really convenient for listening to music and makes it easier to search for something to listen to. That's a good idea. The whole idea of cataloging and indexing your music. CD rot usually happens when CDs are exposed to heavy moisture exposure. And we have insane humidity here in Florida. We have a number of dehumidifiers running throughout the house. And they pull so much water out of the air, I can't even tell you, because it's usually at least 55% humidity in the house. And so you've got to run the dehumidifiers. Otherwise, it'll be like a swamp. Foodies Network 727. Yo, what's good? What's good is that you're here. Thank you so much. Spirit Hunter says, Taylor Swift has some awesome pressings. You should check them out. One of the things that I was so impressed with Taylor Swift's people, or Taylor Swift, if she was the one that came up with the idea, was this idea of, and I don't even know the album name. I'm not a Swiftie. I like her music, especially her older stuff. But that being said, I was so impressed with this idea of having different color versions for her albums. There was like a midnight version. Maybe the album was called Midnight. It was like a blue version, a red version. So people would actually have a reason to collect multiple copies of the same album. How genius is that? And, you know, others have done it too. Like, for instance, like this Now and Then single. I've got the clear. There's other versions. You know, there was a red one. There's a black one. There's a white one. But the Taylor Swift album on various colors, you know, I got the blue one. What color do you have? I'm going to get all of them. It's genius. It's so genius. I'm a person that's easily impressed, perhaps, but when I see somebody, a pro, doing a pro's job at whatever it is, I like that. I like to see smart people doing smart things. Old Radio says, I have one SSB because I could hear ham radio guys talk. So yeah, there's I think on that Police, what is the name of that app? I'm going to look it up. It's a cool app. It's a free app. It's been around forever. Let's see here. I had a police scanner as a kid too. My dad bought me bought me a police scanner. I could listen to all the local 5.0 radio police scanner. 5-0 radio police scanner. Yeah, it looks like this. And it's a free download, and it's just super, super cool. So if you check that out, I think they have an actual station on there. They have a CB station where you can listen to people on CB in different cities, which is, it depends, but there's so much content out. It's really fun. If you're bored, that's a great way to kill some time. And usually the ham radio guy, it's not like they're usually sometimes they're not as professional as it's not like the police, having, there's a decorum that they have to, you can't just, everybody that goes on the air and has an FCC license is supposed to adhere to a standard of conduct, but you'll still get these drunk guys on there. It's really entertaining. It's really entertaining. Getting a Canon 1014 XLS camera. Okay, looking it up. What is it? What did you say it was? Almost closed out this window. I wonder what happens if you're live and you close the window out. Probably no good things. 1014 XLS. Canon 1014 XLS. Okay, it brought me to a printer, so I'm guessing that's not what you're talking about. You ever have that happen where you look at an old model number and it's been reused as a printer model number? Oh, I see why, because it's an old film camera. Wow, that's cool looking. Oh, that's really cool looking. Dang, that is cool looking. This one I see listed on eBay for like $677. Oh, that's cool. I love equipment that has everything is gosh, that's cool. Every feature is a button. It's a switch. When I was in broadcast, our cameras were like that too. The menu systems didn't have hardly anything. The menu in the viewfinder was basically the contrast of the viewfinder itself and what you were seeing in the viewfinder in terms of settings and not. But everything was actually controlled with a dip switch or a knob on the body of the camera. And these were huge cameras we were using too. I mean, these were beasts. But I like that. Foodies Network 727. Love the content. Vinyl, Laserdisc, VHS. The mold in Florida from the, gotta love it. You gotta love it. Fighting the mold at all times. Luckily, we're winning the battle against mold. Gary, welcome. And Gary, are you an insomniac, my friend? It is after midnight where you are at. You need to be asleep probably by now, unless you work nights, and maybe this is a morning time for you, early morning. But welcome in, my friend. Appreciate you. Congratulations on the continued development of your channel. If you haven't done so, folks, go over to Gary. Keep it simple on YouTube. Subscribe, as I have done. There's a lot of friends on here that are YouTubers, and I always try to give the shout out when I can. Steve says, remember the Bearcat scanner my uncle had? Yes, Bearcat. I remember those. Actually heard a police chase once on that thing. It went right by my uncle's house. Wow, you're like listening, it's going by. This is great entertainment. You know what I mean? Now you can listen to one in Dubai while you're sitting in New York City. Gary says, finally got my dream reel-to-reel deck, a TX X1000 10-inch. Wow, that's the real deal. All right, man, that's great. Congratulations, Gary. Just completely serviced and everything. And that's really the key, if it's been serviced or not. I'm so thankful for my Akai 7-inch GX4000D with the glass heads. Just a beautiful machine. It's a way lower grade than what you have there, but really cool. 10-inch reels, 3 3/4 inches per second. You can pretty much have a tape reel last a week at decent fidelity. That's great. Does it do 15 inches per second as well? That'd be cool. Or even 30. Taylor Swift is the greatest. I got 4 of her albums. That's cool. Very popular artist right now. Old radios I paid $457. Well, you got a good deal on that thing, man, because according to this one, like I said, it was $660, $677. I see one for $587, $529, $1,000, $1,800. That's good. You got a good deal. Love it when you get a good deal. That feels good. Thanks for the plug. No worries, Gary. Gary, keep it simple, keeping it real. I really appreciate all of the kind of the community. That's an overused term, but the community of YouTubers in this space, I think is really fun. I got the Zeiss Movicon 8 too. Okay, old radios. Might be time to change the name to old cameras. I've told you this before. How many cameras do you have? I'm afraid to ask. How many vinyls would you say you own? Do you collect movies? Any other things? Says Foodies Network 727. Records. I don't have a count. So I store my records in crates because I like, you can see one over there, the corner of one. I like to create, I've got like a virtual miniature record shop over here in the office. So I really like, and this is my primary listening space. So I actually don't have a record player, by the TV in the living room. I don't sit on the couch and close my eyes and listen to music. I listen to music while I'm working, while I'm sitting here. And if I'm listening elsewhere, like the bedroom, you have a portable device, like a portable CD player, tape player, whatever. Anyway, how many records do I own? Too many. I don't have a count, but I've got a lot of crates. And then I've got things squirreled away. You're a record collector, you get to the point where you overflow your storage. I have no room for records right now. All my crates are full, even a couple overflow crates. My wife had these, they weren't even record crates, but I stole them and made them record crates. They're like little wooden boxes that were in the pantry. And I was like, you know what? The pantry can take care of the rice by itself, but I need these boxes. And so I gifted myself them from her. It was very generous of her, even though she didn't know she did it. And but those are full now too. But I've got box sets leaning up against the wall, like 1.5 feet, 2 feet deep. I've got more box sets stacked up here. I've got a cart dedicated to 7-inch records. The bottom third of the rack is dedicated to 78s, and that's not all the 78s. Before we moved, I really downsized by like 50% my 78s. For a long time, I was bulking up on 78s. I don't listen to 78s for music content almost ever. I'm never like, man, I got to listen to In the Mood, and I want to listen to the Bluebird pressing, even though I own it. I will save a 78 for a demonstration, for a video. Very rarely, maybe once every 2 or 3 years, will I say, I want to listen to a 78, which is why the compromise and the stereo cartridge for monophonic records with the appropriate stylus for the wide groove was perfect for me, because I'm just not a huge consumer. In fact, the 3 turntables I have in my setup right now don't even play 78s. So my Pioneer is mothballed right now. That was my 78 primary deck. And then I was like, when we moved, I was like, I really want to downsize the 78s. They're heavy, they're brittle. And I had so many that I would never listen to. A lot of like 1890s, early 1900s. This is all subjective, not music I enjoyed, but they were historic. And I had done video after video on them. I kept a couple of interesting pieces, some one-sided records, some vertical modulation records, Hill and Dale records. And I donated, or did I donate? No, I sold, because I ended up selling my phonograph, my Vita Nola wind-up phonograph. And I think part of the deal were those records. So I downsized it considerably. So to answer your question, I don't know, but a lot. And a Bell & Howell 200. Jeez. That's crazy, man. That's awesome. Steve says, taking me forever to catalog them into Discogs. See, I've never had a desire to catalog my stuff into Discogs. Greg, welcome in. My wife is doing very well. Miss Record-ology is doing fantastic. And how are you doing, sir? So glad you're here. I buy music. I buy for music. I'm the 78s guy. That's cool, radios. 1920s era hot jazz. Yes, I love it. Some Jack Teagarden, some early Dorsey Brothers stuff, but I'm going to listen to it on CD or streaming. Or on vinyl. I've got a lot of 20s and 30s jazz on vinyl. I mean, that's just where I would go to that. And you may 78s sound great. They can sound fantastic. They sound like fantastic lo-fi, but they can sound very dynamic and wonderful. Some of the best 78s I've ever heard And if you haven't seen the show, every once in a while this comes up, and I always say to go check it out. But go check out, yeah, Jelly Roll Morton. Yes, love that stuff. Larry, another mod in the house. Thank you for moderating. Appreciate it. I went to Kurt Knox, Fort Knox, as he calls it, his underground bunker. It's not really underground. Nondescript building with no signage on the front. Private tour, and we did a two-part, 30-minute videos, two-part. It was 1 hour total. Private tour of the whole thing. If you like 78s, if you like rare Victrolas and rare things and music and all this stuff, please, please, please check out the video. And I apologize in advance for obsessively saying, whoa, that's so cool. Whoa, it's cool. Unbelievable, because I was so flabbergasted. This man was pulling stuff out to show me that he was pulling, we looked at 20-inch, I think there were 20-inch records that silent movie theaters would play for the background music. We were pulling out a case of, I think there were cylinder records that were the first sound recordings ever made in Africa. Master press, metal parts for 78s, all kinds of weird formats and unique cardboard advertising records and one-of-a-kind things, phonographs, Enrique Caruso originals, music and art. And I can't even tell you what this place was like. And I called the video the Willy Wonka of records. So search the channel. If you search Willy Wonka of records or Kurt Knock, N-A-U-C-K, I think is how you pronounce it, out of Houston. We're in Houston from time to time. And got a private tour about 1.5 years ago. It was so incredible. It was so cool. If you even remotely like 78s or vintage music, do yourself a favor and check that out. It's incredible. Anyway, he runs an auction. I just so happen to have his catalog right here. Every quarter, I think it is. And they issue this fantastic catalog. Look at all these labels on here. And basically what he does is he and his team travel the country, and this thing is full of thousands of rare records. But they travel the country and they acquire private collections, specifically of 78s. They don't get into vinyl. And the rarest of the rare, expensive collections, rare collections. And Kurt's the best. And he's such a nice guy. He even took us out for dinner after the private tour. And they do these auctions, and it's you do it online. They sell V-discs, lots of rare stuff. And I know I'm sort of answering my own thing, because I was saying I don't really like to listen to 78s that much because the music is often available elsewhere, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes those records were the end of the line for those recordings. You'll never hear them anywhere else. So that's a reason to listen to them. And I would agree with that, absolutely. But yeah, definitely check out Kurt Knock and his auctions. Very, very cool. Well, if I missed a comment, I'm so sorry. I'm going back to make sure. Lori, welcome in. Do you like the movie The Shining? I have a 7-inch tricolored vinyl of 2 of the songs. I've never seen it. My dad says it's one of the very few scary movies that he actually thought was a scary movie. I've never seen it. I've been to the Stanley Hotel up there in Estes Park, Colorado. But no, I've never seen it. I've seen clips from it. Obviously I'm aware of it. But that's cool. Blues and hillbilly music. Yes, and if you like blues and hillbilly music, 78s. It's oftentimes the only way to go. I'm talking myself out of what I just said about 78s. I've given some 78s, but they are not well looked after. And so many of them are in rough condition. So many. Crosley suitcase players are actually really good for playing 78s. Just get the stylus that fits the appropriate wide groove stylus, and the heavy tracking force of the Crosley actually serves the purpose of the record really well in the case of the 78. Larry says, love your new 45 adapters. Larry, I'm so glad that you not only are here, that you love the 45 adapters. You were the first order for the new exclusive, what are we calling it? Red Rainbow Edition 45 adapters. Obviously, I don't have any right here, unfortunately. The orange ones are always available. But we made a short where we mailed your adapters from Magic Kingdom. Now, the question is, Larry, did they say anything on them? Did it say Magic Kingdom? Or was it postmarked like Orlando or something? How do you clean your 78s for best results, says Gary. Fantastic question. So my default method for cleaning records is my spin clean. However, I broke 2 precious Glenn Miller 78s doing that. So I will no longer clean 78s in the spin clean because it requires force. It's a very tight fit for thick records, even like 120 gram vinyl records. It's a very tight fit. And so I will never do that again. So the way to clean 78s, there's 2 ways. If it's like heinous, if it's absolutely trashed, wood glue is a good way to do it. It takes time. They'll let it dry overnight. Actually, I don't think I've done that on a 78. I've done it on a heinously dirty vinyl record, but that might be a good solution. A lot of people just say soap and detergent and water. Keep it off the label if you can, although the labels are more resilient than people think. But my preferred method is a spray-on cleaner, which I don't have any. The trick is with 78s, don't use an alcohol-based cleaner. You've got to use a non-alcohol-based cleaner. And then I love these cloths. These are actually surgery mops. I don't know what the technical term is, but there's no seam on the edge, or it's a very gentle seam. And it's a very soft cloth. And these come with the spin clean. I got the bonus edition spin clean that came with extra cloths. So a non-alcohol based spray cleaner, a lot of it, and put the record on a flat surface. And then I fold this over and I push deeply and I wipe it very firmly in the direction of the grooves. I do that 2 or 3 times both sides, and that'll clean pretty dang good. And if you wanted to really scrub it, because oftentimes, even though you're pressing down hard, you're using a lot of cleaning solution, the gunk that's fused into the bottom of the groove, you won't be able to get out unless you're dragging a needle through it, which is one way to clean it, by playing it. I've had records where I had to play it 30 times to get the gunk out just with a needle, because nothing, even the spin clean wouldn't touch it. And the spin clean cleans everything. But another trick would be to take a carbon fiber brush and use it as a scrub brush, obviously in the direction of the grooves. But soak it with a non-alcohol record cleaner and then kind of scrub it with one of these. It'll probably make this worse for wear, so you may want to use a brush that you don't care about. But that's how I would go about it. That's how I do go about it. And then these absorbing cloths are great. If you don't have these, a regular terry cloth washcloth will work good as well. Don't use any fabrics that have gone through the wash with fabric softener, because fabric softener deposits little waxy beads into the fibers, and those waxy beads can leave a residue. That's what makes fabric softener soft, is it's leaving a waxy substance behind. So another cloth that I really like too, this one gets a little deeper even than those ones, is a microfiber. So it's kind of like a terry cloth, but it's a microfiber. This one's enormous. I don't know what this came with, but this is, it's not that big. It's like a 12-inch square. But that one is really good too. Usually when I'm doing the spin clean, I do it on the granite counters, and I put this underneath the record that I'm using to clean, because it absorbs a lot. It's very soft. And actually having a firm soft surface like a counter is really good for pushing down and getting that cleaned out. That's how I do it. Again, open for interpretation. Some people, you'll hear some wacky stuff. People do all kinds of stuff. Steve says, I do remember that video you did at the place that sold all those 78s. It was really cool and nice to see all those old recordings still being cared for. Yeah, me too. And it was like, you ever use the term like I rescued a record, or I rescued this? Sometimes if you find something at a thrift store, it's not being taken care of, it's in a pile, or maybe you get it from a thrift store or an antique store or a garage sale. Excuse me. Sometimes you'll feel like you're rescuing those things. And to see items that are cared for at a place like Kurt's, fantastic. Foodies, African Soundies. Yeah, absolutely. Really, really cool. Marcus says, could you do a video on Glenn Miller CDs? I've done this. I swear I've done this. Let's see. Glenn Miller CD. Okay. Maybe I haven't done this. A massive Glenn Miller vinyl collection, July of 2023. Huh. Did a really cool video of a Glenn Miller record. This is a cool video. Back on January 24th of 2022, I did a video of a magnetophone Glenn Miller recording. What's cool about this is the magnetophone was a very early German reel-to-reel tape recorder that used paper tape. And this was recorded behind enemy lines. This was an American propaganda broadcast over enemy lines, recorded in Germany on a magnetophone and played back. That's a cool video. If you search magnetophone on my channel. To answer your question, yes, we need to do that. I've got about as many Glenn Miller CDs as I do Patsy Cline CDs, and that's a lot. So I will do that. Thank you for the recommendation. When you play a 78 backwards, it will summon a... Nope. But I tell you what, I will say this. 78s can sound spooky. Do you like the movie The Shining at 48? Oh, yeah, we already did that. Sorry, I feel like I'm skipping over comments and I'm missing some. I apologize. Lori says, many jazz musicians from the 20s were New Orleans, like Jelly Roll Morton. Love Jelly Roll. I've got a CD of his. We have a wonderful jazz museum here in New Orleans. Yes, that's jazz mecca. That's like the that's, yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. I'm a huge Harry Connick Jr. fan too. Satchmo, love all that stuff. Again, I put it down, but I was talking earlier about the Now You Has Jazz song by Bing Crosby and so many artists, and the roots in New Orleans is undeniable. Love it. Jamie says, or Jaime says, do you collect music from each of the individual Beatles? I personally collect Paul McCartney and Wings CDs and cassettes. It's a good question. So I've picked up a couple John Lennon things, and I would like to. I don't think I'm going to get it all. I want to find the Ringo album where he did I think it's called like Sentimentally something. Anyways, the one with the building on it that he did all of his parents' favorite songs, all the swing music. So that's really cool. I'd probably pick up Paul McCartney's Ram album, and I do like. It's funny. After I got into the Beatles last year and I learned about their music, and obviously the natural tangent is then to go into their solo careers. And boy, did I find out that a lot of songs I liked were by individual Beatles. Like I was especially blown away by George Harrison. How many songs of his I knew but didn't know they were George Harrison. So yeah, maybe I will. But Paul McCartney or John Lennon so far, I don't think I have any of the other solo Beatles stuff. Yeah. Steve says, is that like playing a country song backwards? The wife comes back, the dog comes back, and then he gets the truck back. Yeah, that's funny. Absolutely. The hard thing is the good stuff on 78 is pretty pricey, and even the auction prices on some of that stuff can be pricey. I saw you mail them from the Disney park. That's cool, Larry, but how are they marked? Nothing different on the envelope. Oh, really? Well, if they were going to be special, I would have said something like, maybe we'll do that from now on. Like if you order an adapter, we will mail it from a Disney park of your choice. That would be fun. But if it's not, I thought they would stamp something on there. That's a bummer. It says on the mailbox, says mail collected at the site will be delivered to the nearest U.S. Postal Service office, and I guess that's all they do. They're probably not supposed to be handling mail, like in terms of stamping things. Anyway, the Victor 18,000, I think, series is very in demand, and they're the best stuff. Is that like a catalog series? Very interesting. I still have no Berliners. I don't know if I do. I don't think I do. Or Zonophones. You know what I really like are those like cardboard records that were recorded, like the Voiceograph or whatever they're called, where they were recorded in a little booth, personal messages. I think that's cool. Spell correct. I know, Lori. I hate autocorrect. It's terrible. Fardamark plays 78s that sound clean as a new record. Yeah, absolutely he does. New Orleans also has a World War II museum. Larry says, I use a wooden D4 dishwasher brush. Disc washer brush. That's awesome. Black Patty and Black Swan or Paramounts. Gary says, thanks, that's sort of what I did. Glenn Miller SD cards or USB sticks. I've got them all. I've got all the main stuff digitized at this point. Because for a while, the concept of I can have every Glenn Miller song that existed digitally on an MP3 player that I can carry in my pocket, that was so interesting to me. So interesting. So long before I had my first iPod, I had a couple of these not knockoff, but lower tier MP3 players. And I had ripped all of my Glenn Miller, I had all the major ones, all the studio albums, because I got the 1991 CD set, the complete Glenn Miller and Bluebird, which isn't complete, but it's pretty close. Obviously, the Army stuff, and I put all these albums, a lot of live remote stuff on SD cards, and loaded them into MP3 players and stuff. There's still part of me that likes the idea. In fact, when I reviewed that MP3 player recently, I started doing that. I was like hoarding my own digital audio files. Like, oh, I gotta put some of this. I gotta have some John Williams. I gotta make sure I've got this. And then like, what am I doing? Like, if I want digital audio, then the streaming is, helpful for that. And then I've got copies of all this stuff, in the office. I don't need that for that. I use the MP3 player for my ambient audio, my movie audio, and things I use to listen. I listen to fall asleep and stuff. So even though that thing has massive storage capabilities, I don't need that much storage. But I could. Sometimes I'll get a wild hair. I've digitized all the Patsy Cline stuff. Part of me still likes the idea of having an entire catalog of something on the go. There's still a novelty to it, I guess. Mail it from Christmas, Florida, and they stamp it. That's a good idea, Stephen. Band on the Run album is good. Tour on the Mississippi River for all the blues you want. New Orleans blues, Memphis blues, Chicago blues. I love the blues. Went to the Country Music Museum a few years ago and was surprised how much blues music stuff was on display there. I was pleasantly surprised. It was really good. I saw a fantastic Chet Atkins display. That's not blues, but it was before my Patsy Cline fandom started, unfortunately. So I didn't, I wish I could go back. I haven't had a chance to check out the Patsy Cline Museum or some of the other sites. I haven't gone to her house. I haven't visited the crash site. The only thing that I've been able to do is on the way, when we were driving from Denver to Florida, I did stop by briefly Music Row in Nashville, and I went to Owen Bradley's Quonset Hut studio where she recorded all of her music. And I got to stand at the back door of the studio, and you can still see the Quonset Hut. Oh, it's so cool. So cool. But, 5 miles away would be her house. Another 2 miles away in a different direction would be the museum. Oh, one of these days. Was thinking about doing it when we were on a recent trip up into Tennessee, and then my appendix burst. So that kind of put a damper on things. Which for me, the appendix burst did not hurt nearly as bad as it should have. And I am not pain tolerant. I am not. Like, my pain 10 out of 10 is my wife's 1 out of 10. She's way tougher than me. She can handle way more pain. And for me, I thought that the appendix pain was like a 1. So I thought when I went into the hospital, I'm probably just having gas or something, gas pressure. Like, no, your appendix burst. I was like, what? But anyway, if it wasn't for that, I might have actually had a chance to check that out because, we don't drive through Nashville that often. But when in Rome, take advantage of it. Acetates. Yes, I want to find acetates. I have a few things. I have a few radio promos and things. I have some like one-off personal things, but I've got 2. This is another project that I want to get done is I have 2 16-inch Armed Forces Radio Network discs from World War II, right at the tail end, 1945. And I don't have a way to play them. My old Audio-Technica LP7, may it rest in peace. I don't know where it is these days. almost could accommodate the 16-inch record. Nothing I have now can fit it. So I've got this idea in the back burner for a long time now to jerry rig a record player that, monstrosity of parts to play a 16-inch disc. I would love to do that. And yeah, I would love to find more acetates as well. There have been, if any of you are looking for a gift, just kidding. But there's a eBay seller that has been auctioning off Patsy Cline acetates. They're 12-inch acetates for a 7-inch pressings of her 45s. And they're the original 4-star promo disc versions. They're just going for a little bit more than I would want to spend on. They're like $60. But I've been watching those auctions. I was like, oh man, it's so tempting. It's so tempting. One time I did try bidding on it, and that one went nuts and went up to like $100 and stuff. I would love that. I would love to find that. Used to live down there a couple of years ago, says Steven. That's cool. Recently picked up Glenn Miller Limited Edition Volume 1 and 2. It was in cardboard and 2 was padded. I love those sets so much, Marcus. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I've got a lot of different. I think I have all the variants of Volume 1 and 2 copies of the padded 7-inch version of Volume 2. And I've got some 12-inch second pressing of Volume 1. Those are great sets. Those are great sets. And if you don't have the 12-inch versions yet, go for those because I don't think those are truncated like the 7-inch ones are. That being said, they're great. Put them on the changer all day. Just put a stack of those on there. Great music. And for those of you that are Glenn Miller fans, listen to me now. Listen to me speak this. I am going to be doing this in the very near future. So the Glenn Miller Archive, which is run by Dennis Sprague up in Boulder, Colorado, and it is essentially the modern iteration of the Glenn Miller family, Glenn Miller Trust, the owner of the image of Glenn Miller. They own everything except for the products that Sony has ownership of, like the metal parts of the studio recordings. And I think some of the NBC masters are at Iron Mountain in Pennsylvania under the ownership and care of Sony. But everything else is completely owned by, and I'm talking a lot of rare audio, all the photos of Glenn Miller, everything is owned and managed by a very caring group of people. They have a very cool Facebook presence as well that I would recommend checking out if you're a Glenn Miller fan. But what I really want to tell you is if you go to the Glenn Miller Birthplace Society in partnership with the Glenn Miller Archives, which is what the institution is called, they are releasing the very first in over 20 years official Glenn Miller release of music on CD. It's, I think, a double CD set. It's going to be in the vein of the Glenn Miller Limited Edition Volume 1, but it's not that same music. It's all unheard music that hasn't been released anywhere, I believe. Exclusive, and I happen to know that the people involved in the restoration have made these sound like incredible, that you've never even heard anything like it in your life from the original metal parts and master materials and tapes. And you're in for an auditory treat. Pick up the CD collection. It's just about to be released. But if you Google Glenn Miller Birthplace Society or Dennis Sprague, S-P-R-A-G-G, he runs the archive. Go to either of those websites and you will find a link where you can buy that set. I will be doing it as well and showing it on the channel. That's going to be some super exclusive stuff. Gary, good night. Thank you for being there. So yeah, if you're a Glenn Miller fan, you're not going to want to miss that. I can't wait for it. It's the first official release in over 20 years. Larry says Band on the Run is McCartney's best, in my opinion. Marcus says both for around 10 to 20 bucks each. Good prices, 45 RPM sets. Excellent. Even had the TV show, It's Glenn Miller Time. Yeah, absolutely. Make sure you hit the like button. Yeah, if you hadn't yet, hit the like button. Appreciate it. Okay, let's wrap it up. Weird Spin says, I looked, but I haven't had much luck in them. Probably just South Florida, though this last week I actually got lucky with a few LPs and thrifts. Nice. I need to go hunting, although I don't have room. My wife's getting to the point where she's like, you know, you may have to kind of one in, one out on the records at this point. Like, you got to get rid of one to get a new one. Larry says some Bluetooth speakers have an SD card and USB ports. They do, and I think that's awesome. Chet Atkins is underrated for guitar playing. Chet Atkins is incredible. CGP all the way. And Tommy Emmanuel, in my opinion, the best guitar player alive. If you've never heard Tommy Emmanuel playing, then it's incredible. But you see these top guitar player lists of all time. Those guys never make the list. Absolutely, they deserve to, though. Jeremy's even pushing the adapter. If you haven't bought your own 45 adapter, there's the link to do it. Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate that. Absolutely. 45 adapters, custom 3D printed for your enjoyment. Larry, FlexiDisc used to be in magazines. Some FlexiDisc had computer program. I've heard about that, yeah. The ones in magazines, I always remember the whale disc in National Geographic, wanting to get a hold of that. 50s R&B and rock 78s. We did a video a long time ago on rock and roll 78s. Tommy Dorsey. All my favorite bands are in my... Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, my friends. Thank you so much for hanging with me tonight. Almost an hour and a half. It's been a blast. If you're watching live, thank you for being here. If you're watching the replay, don't forget to hit that bell notification, select all so you don't miss the next notification. This test of 3 notifications a day has proven that I don't believe that there's only 2, because previously I'd heard you only get 2 push notifications, yet here we all are. So I'm thinking that you can definitely do at least 3 things a day on a channel. Jay McDermott, thank you so much. Lori, Paul recorded Venus and Mars here in New Orleans at Sea. I've heard of that. Yes, I've heard of that studio way back in 75. Great album. Larry says $29.99 for the Glenn Miller CD set. Absolutely. It is a bit pricey, but I'm going to come up with it because I really want that. And the sound quality, unreleased, never before heard material makes it worth it. Steve, cool to hang out with you as well. Old Radios hope to get the Ortophon, get the refund going. Sorry that happened. I feel you. Literally with my Ortophone too. Yeah, I hope I don't do that again. My friends, thank you so much. Have a wonderful night. God bless. Happy record hunting. And we will see you next time.